In the year 1927, a new chapter was written in the history of human flight. In a time when aviation was still a fledgling endeavor, Charles Lindbergh dared to imagine and achieve what had long eluded even the most intrepid pilots. Setting off from Roosevelt Field in New York, his world's first solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean to Paris was not merely a journey of physical distance, but a testament to the relentless pursuit of human progress. The world watched with bated breath as Lindbergh, a mere 25 years old, strapped himself into the cockpit of his custom-built monoplane, the Spirit of St. Louis, on that fateful May morning. The atmosphere at Roosevelt Field was electric, charged with both excitement and apprehension. The runway was crowded with well-wishers, journalists, and fellow aviators, all eager to witness this monumental event. Lindbergh, however, remained focused, his gaze fixed on the horizon, his mind on the task ahead. As the engine of the Spirit of St. Louis roared to life, the crowd fell into a respectful silence. The plane, heavily laden with fuel, began its slow roll down the runway, gathering speed with each passing second. Finally, at 7:52 a.m., the wheels left the ground, lifting Lindbergh into the unknown, into history. The flight itself was an odyssey of endurance and skill. Lindbergh had to contend with not just the vastness of the Atlantic but also the elements. The weather was unpredictable. At times, the plane was buffeted by strong winds, and at others, it flew through thick fog. He had to maintain constant vigilance, flying through day into night, navigating by the stars, the moon, and the rudimentary instruments of the time. Throughout the journey, Lindbergh had to manage his sleep deprivation. He would occasionally doze off while the plane was on autopilot, a dangerous gamble given the conditions, but one he had to take to keep his mind sharp. His only company was his thoughts and the hum of the engine. The isolation was profound, a testament to the lonely nature of this pioneering flight. As he flew over the ocean, Lindbergh was aware that any mishap could mean disaster. There was no possibility of landing or turning back. The weight of the fuel was such that even a slight deviation in his calculations could lead to running out of fuel over the ocean. Yet, his confidence in his preparation and the aircraft's design propelled him forward. The world waited anxiously for news. In an era before instant communication, updates on Lindbergh's progress were sporadic, carried by ship radio operators who caught glimpses of the Spirit of St. Louis overhead. Newspapers ran headlines, and the public followed every report, their hopes pinned on this young man's success. As Lindbergh neared Europe, his navigation was put to the ultimate test. The sight of land was a relief, but his journey was not yet complete. He had to find Le Bourget Airport in Paris, amidst the darkness, and without modern navigation aids. His skill as a pilot, combined with sheer luck, guided him to his destination. At 10:22 p.m. on May 21st, the Spirit of St. Louis touched down at Le Bourget Airport, and the crowd erupted. People from Paris and beyond had gathered, drawn by the news of Lindbergh's approach. The roar of the crowd was deafening, a celebration of human achievement, of Lindbergh's courage and determination. Charles Lindbergh stepped out of his plane, not just as a pilot, but as a symbol of what one person could achieve against all odds. His flight was more than a journey from New York to Paris. It was a leap into the future of aviation. It demonstrated that the barriers of distance and fear could be overcome, opening the skies for future generations to explore and conquer. In the year 1927, Lindbergh's flight was not just an event, it was a catalyst for change, inspiring countless individuals to dream bigger, to push the boundaries of what was considered possible. His journey across the Atlantic marked the beginning of a new era in human flight, one where the sky was no longer a limit, but a vast frontier waiting to be charted. In the year 1927, as Lindbergh's plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, settled onto the grass of Le Bourget Airport, the world took notice. The audacious endeavor he had undertaken was not just a personal triumph, but a global event that captured the imagination of people everywhere. His arrival in Paris was more than a successful landing, it was a cultural phenomenon. The news of Lindbergh's feat spread like wildfire, carried by telegraph and radio, making headlines in newspapers across continents. His name was on everyone's lips, and his story was told in every language. The French, always appreciative of heroism and adventure, greeted Lindbergh with unparalleled fervor. The crowd at Le Bourget was not just there to witness history. They were there to partake in it, to share in the joy of this monumental achievement. As Lindbergh was lifted onto shoulders and carried through the throng, he became an instant icon, a living symbol of human potential. In the days following his landing, Lindbergh was celebrated with parades, banquets, and accolades. He received the Legion of Honor from the French government, and his name was etched into the annals of history alongside the great explorers and adventurers. The Orteig Prize, which had spurred his flight, was now his, but the real reward was the admiration and respect of the world. This attention, however, brought with it scrutiny and pressure. Lindbergh, who had sought solitude in the skies, now found himself at the center of a whirlwind of fame. His life was no longer his own. Every action was observed, every word scrutinized. The solitude of the cockpit was replaced by the glare of the spotlight. Beyond the celebrations, Lindbergh's flight had profound implications. It was a turning point for aviation, proving that long-distance air travel was not only feasible, but could be done safely and efficiently. This opened the door for transatlantic commercial flights, which would eventually become routine, reshaping the world's geography by bringing continents closer together. The aviation industry itself saw a surge in interest and investment. Manufacturers ramped up production, designers pushed the boundaries of aircraft technology, and pilots were inspired to push their own limits. Lindbergh's flight was a catalyst, sparking advancements in navigation, safety protocols, and aircraft design, setting the stage for the golden age of aviation. In the year 1927, Lindbergh's influence extended beyond aviation. He became a figure of inspiration, demonstrating that with determination, preparation, and courage, one could overcome the seemingly insurmountable. His story resonated with people from all walks of life, fueling dreams of exploration and adventure. Yet the fame brought challenges. Lindbergh, a private man by nature, found the constant public attention overwhelming. He and his wife, Anne Morrow Lindbergh, would later face unimaginable tragedy when their son was kidnapped and murdered in the infamous Lindbergh kidnapping case, an event that would further alter their lives. Despite these personal trials, Lindbergh's legacy as an aviation pioneer remained untarnished. His flight was a beacon of what was possible, a reminder that the human spirit could soar to heights previously unimagined. It was a testament to the power of the individual, the importance of innovation, and the boundless potential of exploration. In the year 1927, Lindbergh's journey from New York to Paris was not just a physical crossing of the Atlantic, but a metaphorical leap into the future. It was a moment when the world looked up, not just to see an airplane, but to envision a future where the skies were no longer a barrier, but a bridge connecting dreams to reality. Charles Lindbergh's flight was a pivotal chapter in the story of human flight, one that continues to inspire and propel humanity forward, ever upward into the vast expanse of the sky. In the year 1927, as Lindbergh's journey became the talk of the world, the ripple effects of his flight began to manifest in unexpected ways. His solo flight across the Atlantic was not just a personal achievement, it was a catalyst that would shape the course of history in multiple domains. The immediate impact on aviation was profound. Lindbergh's success spurred a wave of interest in flying, both among the public and within the aviation industry. Air shows became more popular, and flying clubs proliferated, with many inspired by Lindbergh's daring spirit to take to the skies themselves. Aviation companies saw a surge in demand for their products. Manufacturers like Boeing, Douglas, and Lockheed, which had been on the cusp of producing more reliable and efficient aircraft, now found a receptive market. The need for better, faster, and safer planes was clear, and the industry responded with innovations that would eventually make air travel accessible to the masses. The infrastructure for aviation also began to take shape. Airports were constructed, navigation systems improved, and weather forecasting for aviation purposes became more sophisticated. The groundwork was being laid for an era where flying would become as commonplace as train travel had been. Beyond the realm of aviation, Lindbergh's flight had a cultural impact. He became a symbol of the American spirit of adventure, embodying the optimism and forward-thinking attitude of the Roaring Twenties. His image was used in advertisements, his name was invoked in speeches, and his story was told in books, films, and radio broadcasts. However, the fame that came with his achievement also brought challenges. Lindbergh, who valued privacy, found his life under constant public scrutiny. The media frenzy around him intensified when, in 1932, his infant son, Charles Jr., was kidnapped in what would become known as the crime of the century. The Lindbergh kidnapping case drew national attention, and the subsequent trial of Bruno Richard Hauptmann, who was convicted and executed for the crime, further highlighted the dark side of fame. In response to this tragedy, Lindbergh and his family sought solitude, moving to England and later to various remote locations to escape the relentless public eye. Despite this, Lindbergh continued to contribute to aviation and science. He worked with Pan American World Airways on the development of long-distance routes and aircraft, and his interest in rocketry and space exploration led him to consult with figures like Robert Goddard, laying some of the groundwork for America's future space endeavors. His later years were marked by a return to exploration, but this time in a different realm. Lindbergh became an environmentalist, concerned with the rapid technological advancement and its impact on the natural world. His writings, like The Spirit of St. Louis and Of Flight and Life, reflected his evolving views, showing a man who had not only conquered the skies, but was now grappling with the responsibilities that came with such power. In the year 1927, Lindbergh's flight was a beacon of human potential, but as events unfolded, it also served as a cautionary tale. His life illustrated the complexities of fame, the personal costs of public adoration, and the ever-present need for introspection in the face of progress. His legacy in aviation is undeniable. Lindbergh's flight paved the way for advancements that would lead to the jet age, the space race, and beyond. His name became synonymous with pioneering spirit, and his achievement remains a milestone in the journey of human flight. Yet, Lindbergh's story also teaches us about the human condition. His life was a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, of solitude and fame, of innovation and contemplation. In the year 1927, Charles Lindbergh's journey was not just a flight across the Atlantic. It was a voyage through the complexities of a life lived in the public eye, a life that would inspire generations to look up, not just to the stars, but to the potential within themselves. His legacy is a reminder that the sky, like the human spirit, knows no bounds, and that every flight, both literal and metaphorical, carries with it the weight of history and the promise of the future.